During the performance that evening, I just tore my coat off and just went into a wild abandon, that kind of intoxicated frenzy and possession. As I say, it was a possession. If you ask me where did I get possessed first, I said my feet would catch fire. I'd feel my solar plexus going around like a fast-moving electric fan, and then spread through the forehead to the feet and the hands. And I just absolutely abandoned myself.
Dance is really now part of my life. It's like a prayer to me, it's like everything to me.
When I dance, I feel a release because it kind of is an escape from everything that happens in daily life.
I feel I'm creating a different world. Whatever problems, whatever issues you have, stays behind the door.
I feel free, and I feel this is the only time where I can express myself. I can be myself, who I am in reality.
You ask me why I dance, and that's what it's for this kind of challenge and this being able to engage with movement and in space.
It takes years of practice and training for you to become impactful. And whether it's a painter or whether it's a singer or a dancer or even a gymnast in the Olympics, we only see the final product in those 3 minutes. We don't see how many years and hours of toil has gone in to give us that brilliant 3 minutes. There was always music around in the family. There was always Bharatanatyam. And when it was not happening in the house, I was outside attending concerts. And for me, I suppose when I say I enjoyed my time, it was more because I got to dress up. Half those concerts were meditation and sleep, and the remaining half was actually listening to what was happening. And whatever went in the subconscious clearly went in. It was a huge, huge part of the exposure to the art forms, and natural interest came in.
When I started my dance training at 6 years old with the Padmini Kalalayam, it was in the Bharatanatyam style at the local temple. My grandmother, having come from India, insisted that my sister and I had to have some connection with our heritage via arts and culture, so she enrolled us in dance and music lessons.
I was very much interested in learning dance, and from a very young age, I would say 5 to 6, dance is something which stays with me always. Any Indian classical dance, it is wholesome, holistic. In Bharatanatyam, we are not only dancing physically, there's so much muscle memory we are building in terms of remembering the moves, remembering the count of beats, the rhythm, storytelling aspect. I mean, can you see the vast range of activities our brain will be engaged in?
I find it's artistic, I find it's good for mental health, and I wish I had that opportunity when I was younger, because I could have done with it.
I've been dancing and teaching Kathak for over 20 years now. This is a very important part of my life. When I'm not dancing and teaching Kathak, I work full-time as a lawyer. When I was growing up, I wasn't really exposed to Indian classical arts. My first real interaction with Kathak happened at university, and it was completely by chance. I'd attended a street dance workshop, and it just so happened that the next workshop after that was a Kathak workshop, and I was hooked instantly. There was something about the spins, the fluidity of the hand movements, and sort of the effortlessness of its appearance that grabs me instantly. There's a lot of footwork which is the foundation of Kathak dance. To bring out that footwork, a Kathak dancer will wear bells around their ankles, anything from 50 to 150, 200. You have to be a bit fearless.
My favorite moves are chakras. Chakras are spins, and there are lots of different layers of spin. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I started learning Kathak, I didn't even know what Kathak dance was. I had never seen Kathak dance before in my life. Interest grew over the years. It just always stayed with me. I always went back to the dance, and it gives me so much. It's a meditation. I just forget everything.
Kathak is a way of expressing my emotions through my hand movements, my footwork, through facial expressions, but I just feel like it's a good way for me to release anything I've been feeling. I think that it's really important that we're able to learn this dance in London, and I think it's a privilege because many parents, especially my parents, didn't get the opportunity to learn this style of dance.
For me, Kathak is important because when I perform, it brings a little bit of India back into me.
Kathak is something like that makes me happy. It's relaxing for me. It's about like moments and gestures.
When I tell people that I do Kathak dance, the reaction is normally, wow, that's very different to what we know of or what we've heard of. The question normally is, oh, where'd you learn it? You know, could I start? Are there many teachers? Are there many places where you can learn?
I always felt that I want to do classical Indian dance before I actually knew what is classical Indian dance. I compare learning a dance to learning a foreign language. First thing you do, you learn the alphabet. You learn how to write the letters. Then out of these letters you make words, and then you can make sentences out of these words. You don't start with reading complicated books because you don't even know the alphabet. If in Bharatanatyam, from point A to point B, you just go like this, then from Odissi, from point A to point B, you go like that. One of the students recently said that, yeah, I find it a bit funny that I'm an Indian and I'm learning about Indian culture from Katrina, who is not Indian. Because I have to tell the stories from the Indian epics, because not all the kids, for example, who grow up outside of India, they know about Hindu gods.
Odissi for me, it's basically going back to my roots in a way. It is my identity. I associate with Odissi personally because I grew up in a different part of India, so I didn't grow up in Orissa. So it was me connecting back to my grandmother and my grandfather's roots and what they knew, and the stories and how you narrate the stories.
It's a very graceful dance, kind of very beautiful and very kind of flowing, and it's just something that's part of my life.
I spent a lot of my childhood going to Tamil temples and being really inspired by the sculptures there. And when I found Odissi, I found that it brought that same sort of aesthetic, and I wanted to imbibe that within my body. So that's what Odissi has given me, and it's really brought grace and a sense of peace and beauty to my life that I hadn't experienced before.
Because I think really in dancing, you have to get possessed. You get so hypnotized, so possessed, that your possession then communicates itself to those who watch you.
It's reconnected me to the stories that my mum used to tell me when I was small.
The characterization of the person that you were portraying, learning both the mythological aspects of the Hindu religion from dance, as well as stories and cultural aspects that my grandmother fed us.
The aspect of storytelling of the different characters, the different Hindu gods and goddesses, and the movements, the rhythm. It is very important you understand the lyrical part.
The sculptures that we have in the Chola temples in Tamil Nadu, every sculpture comes from a preceding movement. The beginning of the movement leading to the end of the movement, which actually was engraved in the sculpture, is called a karana. So there is a start to the movement, and then there is body to the movement, and then there is an end position. So the end position was what was sculpted.
We build compositions out of these little chunks of syllables. So like that we can, you can hear there's a sort of pull in the composition where how your body might want to dance it, and eventually you end up with, a structure that you hang the dance off. I could go to any Kathak dancer and say, oh, I want you to do ta-ta, tik-ta-dik-dik, tik-ta-dik-dik, ta-ta, tei-ya, tei-ya, kran, ta-ta, tik-ta-dik-dik, tei, ta-tei. And they will know at least one way of doing that, if not more than one way.
In Kathakali, with the edge of the leg, like this. So we do that one, the edge. Okay, so here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, like that. In Kathakali, we have to, this is the very importantly they start. They open here and push your eyeball out, nice like that, and project, and then you go sides, up, down, and do all the circle moves.
When we think of the classical art forms, each guru had complete prerogative to decide in which direction they wanted to take a particular thing. They could add to the tradition, so to speak. They're just adding their little bit to what's already a continuing form. This kind of gradual accumulation of knowledge that makes for really interesting change across time.
This is where it all started for me. Music college in Vadodara, learning Kathak dance. I was very young. Coming here, I feel years of music kind of accumulated, and it's feeling, the excitement is difficult to describe it. And learning from the master who had learned from his forefathers, and with the live music, tabla playing, reciting.
When I started, as I said, 80s India, 90s Calcutta, my training was in a very traditional way, which we call the Guru Shishya Parampara. We used to have twice a week lessons with my guru. There was no time limitation to the lessons when we were training. It all depended on the mood of the teacher. Once you're in Guru's house, you are completely engrossed in that atmosphere of training, learning, and not only physically dancing all the time, observing. That will be really difficult to emulate and bring it to current system of teaching what I pursue here, because of the time restrictions.
Whatever we practiced and performed had to be learnt by memory, and to reproduce it in the best form possible, we were encouraged not to use books, even through training. So it was oral.
We grew up in a much less technical environment, and I think that helped us to learn better. Because there was no option of video recording, audio recording. We only had a notebook, a pen or a pencil. Our brain is our camera, I would say.
For me, it's not so much about the grades and, progressing with all the exams and having the qualification. For me, it's like inside.
I credit my broad outlook on dance to my dance guru in Malaysia, Ramli Ibrahim. It wasn't just a cultural pursuit, but it was more an artistic one, something that was meant to develop both your thinking and your approach to art in general. It wasn't just dance. There were all kinds of other artists who were always coming in and out of the school, so painters, actors, puppeteers. All these people had an influence in how art was received and presented at the school. Learning non-narrative dance, which is what you start with, of course, in the beginning, just learning shapes and learning to align your body with certain aesthetic movements. We also had to do ballet training alongside, just to inform the body in a different way, to kind of challenge it in a little bit. From a very early age, all of us overcame stage fright. That's not to say I still don't get stage fright, but you overcame this kind of self-consciousness about being on stage. And it was about your body and your connection to the movement and what you were presenting, rather than who's looking at you and worrying about that being present on stage.
I'm Adya Shastri. I started Bharatanatyam dancing, I think, when I was 9 years old. Even at a very young age, I really, really loved dancing. And it was just thinking about the possibility of furthering dance and learning more about it in depth. In mudras, we have hand gestures. One hand of Alaparna can show flowers. Two hands like these together can show beauty. Each represents different meanings. That's why it's so intricate and layered. Coming to the UK, I got to be more integrated with my culture through Bharatanatyam, because I learned more in depth about our Hindu deities, stories. For the BBC competition, I performed my solo. Safe to say, I was very nervous. I was standing behind the door. I think I was laughing and smiling because I was like, oh my God, I'm here. This is actually happening. But when I started dancing, I didn't think about anything else. I was just in the dance and I really, really enjoyed it. It was a different sort of energy and exhilaration that I had never felt before. Dance I performed at the competition was called Kali Kavutvam, to do with the goddess Kali. And it's such an intricate and complicated piece because I wanted to explore the idea of feminine power and Shakti. I thought I would approach it with power and her elegance and the energy she possesses. I was in disbelief. I did not think I would win. It felt unreal. It really didn't feel real to me.
The word literally means ascending a stage. So it's supposed to be the first time that you get on a stage and you perform a full margam. So a margam is a set of pieces that kind of have a beginning, middle and end.
So we had to wait until the Arangetam to perform on your own or outside.
And when those performances happened, we were able to see that whatever we learned in terms of talent was able to be presented in an audience.
I did my Arangetram, which was in the year 1988. It was a wonderful kind of recollection of my first foray into dancing on stage with live musicians. The press attended. They do a critical review of the performance. So the next day morning you wake up, you read about it. And I trained for more than a year. Every day after school, in the evening, there was 2 to 3 hours of training every day. You learn that where your strengths are, your real, and where you have to work. The entire journey of preparing for Arangetram helped me with that.
And every time when we toured, that was a different experience because we used to see lots of different audiences. That is completely new for me. I never had that before. Every year we always have some Europe programs, Canada and America. We stayed for a month in Amsterdam and we went from there, we traveled to Belgium and all around that areas.
When I was child, I used to really make my father happy and dancing and practicing. When I got my Government of India's scholarship, I was the only one from all over India. Because of dance, I am really surviving. I did lots of hard work in dance. 30 years only spent on my dance. dance company called Pushpalata Dance. I named for my mother. Her name was Pushpalata. And I hope my father's soul must be maybe somewhere he is in heaven. So he must be happy to see me, that still I'm carrying on.
I used to work in the city, and dance was a hobby. And one day I just got a bit fed up of the city life and not really happy with what I was doing. So I left my job. I thought I'd have a break and then come back to my proper job, and then drifted into the dance, and I'm still looking for a proper job.
In my early 20s, I had a shift in career, so to speak. I'd gone to Australia to study science and discovered about 3 or 4 years in that I really wanted to do dance. It wasn't easy switching from studying science to dance. I had to do a lot of soul searching. One of the things that kind of made me change my mind was when my grandmother passed away, my maternal grandmother, who was instrumental in leading me towards dance. When she passed away, it affected me in a way that I started questioning the purpose of lots of things. Despite quite enjoying the science studies, I wasn't sure anymore why I was doing it. And the only thing that brought me any joy was to dance. I had no concept of what a career in dance meant. I don't think I saw that far yet. I just knew that I wanted to dance and I wanted to do it all the time. And having to make that decision for myself kind of was the big jump for me, from going from being a child to actually becoming an adult and taking responsibility for that decision.
Dance is like a living form, right? So it follows the communities and the societies and the people who perform it. The Kathak we dance today is not the Kathak of even 20 years ago, let alone 50 years ago, let alone 100 years ago. It's not an end in itself, but just like a door or a window into very, very many different parts of India's culture, and it will continue to change.
I don't want to stick to the similar style or similar way of dancing all the time. Each program I always think, how can I make changes in this program? And I want them to find interesting and the new things in every single program.
I think it's a misconception that the traditional art forms are prescriptive. Within those conventions are the cogs for change. If you see a hint of Bharatanatyam or a hint of Odissi or a hint of Kathak, that's just what my body is expressing in that moment.
We can exchange it and teach each other and learn from each other. I kind of want to learn everything and I want to exchange different cultures. So I can say, yeah, okay, I've learned this as well, and this is now part of my identity.
This new knowledge that I have can safely be incorporated with something that has been traditional to me and that I'm completely rooted in. Not to change what I know, but then to give it a different dimension which can coexist. I think it can be a very beautiful blend.
What is the purity of the form? What is the authenticity of the form? My question would be, who decides what the authenticity is? And ultimately, it's up to the artists involved to kind of decide for themselves what they want to hold on to and what they'd like to give up.
We still have some way to go to kind of get people more interested in attending events and learn more about our Indian dance. But I think now slowly people are getting a little aware about art forms within the Indian classical tradition.
Sometimes people find the need to dilute it to be able to present it to a Western audience, but I think the audience is capable of appreciating it in its purest form.
What is funded will naturally steer the trends of, what gets seen and what doesn't. The makers, those who are making the work and who have to push these boundaries, this work needs to be seen for these reasons. This is the vision that we're trying to shape, and if you've got a strong enough argument, it will be heard.
I think there's definitely interest out there for people to learn, and obviously there are these hidden gems and these teachers who do also teach it.
I think nowadays dance generally becomes more international. It's not the privilege of Indian people to learn these beautiful dance forms. Now it could be shared with other people as well.
I love working with different age groups, different people from different backgrounds, and passing on what I've learned, but also learning things from them.
One of the great things about my dance journey with Kathak, it has brought me into contact with so many different aspects of Indian culture.
I should now make something concrete to leave it, so pass it on. And now most of my students, they are grown up, but anyway we always work like a family.
I do hope that the culture and the tradition carries on. If people are passionate about it, there's a need and a want to learn more and help pass it on.
The interest is there, and I don't think people are just receiving it passively. There is a kind of real active engagement with it. So it's really wonderful.
Now through social media, I think that's very important in spreading awareness of the cultures and heritages of India.
And in the future, I'll definitely let my children be taught by someone, or even me, because that's like part of like the history and the culture, and it should be widely spread.
The way our gurus raised us was every role in the dance drama is important. Whether you're a tree or whether you're a sakhi or whether you're just a bird flying, each of us is an important part of the group, and when the group production is successful, it is because of every individual.
I want to see more brown dancers and South Asian dancers in the contemporary dance world, and just brown dancers in general, because seeing someone like you dance on stages and move is like, oh wow, you know, what if I can move like that? You know, it just opens up a whole range of possibilities in your head. So I'd love to be that for someone.
Adya did her performance in April. I've got so many queries about Bharatanatyam because she has brought it to the forefront. I think we need that platform. We have to find those opportunities where we can showcase.
The works that have just stayed with me have been some of the classical repertoire which I learned as a child. And regardless of age or time or place or culture, these kind of universal sentiments that we experience as humans is what carries through.
I don't think I would ever stop dancing because it's in here. The Indian dance is about coming from here.